Okay, I'm going to double check and make sure we're streaming. Indeed. Yay. Hi, this is Dee with Critical Break. Happy Thursday, everybody. We made it to Thursday. I made it past yesterday just to find out I've got more to do, but more to do that keeps me off my mission, which is not good. But I'm going to do my best to get those things out of the way so that I can focus on my mission. But Sir Edward is with me again today. We're going to continue talking about the Merovingian, the M's, and much more today about some visions that I've had recently. And evidently somebody's had a vision that is very related to one that I had earlier last year. But anyway, and we were going to answer there's some questions that we didn't get to during the last stream that we'll go and take care of right away in the beginning of this one, just to get them over with. But anyway, so how was your morning, sir? And how was your day yesterday?
It's been good. It's been good. I went this morning for a little walk, been drinking coffee, looking over the lost symbol, which I think we'll talk about today, and a few other things. But yeah, it went good. Now, last night was a marathon for me, 8 hours and 12 minutes, and who's counting the seconds? But it was fun. It was fun. I enjoyed talking with everybody. I hope I answered most of the questions.
So you did a Skype call with a bunch of the people that follow your Facebook Project Aquarius page, right?
Yeah, we had 58 at one time.
Yeah.
58.
Yeah, somebody asked if I had the recording of that, and I was like, I didn't attend that, so no, I do not have a recording of that.
To answer that, Lisa, who started it, she's a real trooper. She stayed up in fact, she stayed up longer than I did. But she recorded. I tried to record it, but every time I record it, the lightning would strike and I would lose connection. So Lisa's got it. I don't know when she'll post it or when, but I know she got it. And if she got it all, I don't know.
Yeah. That just as a preface to our stream, some people might be under the impression that the House of El and the House of Anne feel the same way about all topics, and that's not the case. So I don't speak for Sir Edward, and he doesn't speak for the House of El either. So just an FYI, everybody. So just keep that in mind. But we'll take care of the questions, and then we'll start talking about our M's and a lot of other stuff. But yeah, so I will pull up the questions here. Give me a moment. Because there's a few we didn't get to yet, and so I'm going to do my best to cover them. I hope we get them all. The first one, hi, Joanna here. I just wondered if the space station sees the ships around the Earth. What is its importance, or does it have any importance now or in the coming times?
The space station recording them? Yes, they have been recording them. It's funny that when the space station comes back around into view, where the ships are, the NASA, I don't know how many people went to NASA's website for the live
Ignore that for a minute. Sorry. It'll ring for a second. You know, he called when we talked earlier. It's him again.
Yeah.
I'll just call him back. I'll just let the machine get it. Anyway, let me check the sound real quick, everybody. Sound okay? And sorry about the phone. It's so annoying. Should just unplug it and that would stop that nonsense. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. interruption with your space station response.
But yes, the space station has observed them, and some of the film has been taken. But those who went to the NASA live feed, where the ISS is being, you can go there and see what the astronauts on the ISS are seeing. But when they get close to the motherships that are out there, the live feed just mysteriously deletes itself for about 30 minutes, and then suddenly it just pops right back up. No explanation given. We know what they are and why they're doing it. So, yes, maybe somebody will come clean. Somebody down in Australia sent me the other day a Skype message that asking was the glows around the moon, the ships. I don't know what you're looking at, but I know they're just past the moon's terrestrial orbit. In other words, here's the moon, the ships are behind it. Well, maybe not behind it, but they're beyond its orbital plane. So somebody down there has been watching and seeing them. So they're very observable if you look.
Yeah,
You've
the
got a
one thing,
telescope, look to the southern hemisphere.
yeah, the space station, the thing that I make note of is the launch that failed going there had everything to do with a supercomputer that they're installing on the space station. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it has everything to do with trying to continue control down here. Um, it's not good, I know that.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, they've captured ships from many different ET races go zooming by on many occasions. So, yeah. Um, let's see, what's the next question? Next question. So, where was the child, James, when Mary was delivering? Jesus, while Joseph was with her in the stable. Or, I don't know that it was a stable, to be honest. Or
No, it
was
actually
he
was a
off
cave.
with other members of the family?
No, uh, there's not much record on it, but during that month of September, when Jesus arrived or was born, there was a census going on. So I believe that James most likely was with the Holy Family. Um, it's very well spoken of in the Bible about it. There was a census going on, a Roman census. They want to know how many people they had enslaved. So I'm pretty sure James and the other family members were all as together as one. And Jesus was not born in a stall per se, as some people think. It was he was delivered in a cave, and it's very well noted. Just have to look for it.
Yeah.
And I will find it for those who are curious and don't know where to look. I'll find it for you. Just give me a little time, and I'll post it, and you can see it for yourself. And I'll give the biblical scriptures and the historical records on it. So let me make a note of that so I don't add it to my grocery list. I was
Hopefully.
making a grocery list.
Hopefully, me retrieving all my memories will give us a lot of answers about tidbit questions like where was James, right? I imagine with the family as well. Same thing as Sir Edward. Okay, let's see. um, this one's a little longer because I didn't get to answer her because at the time, it was kind of addressed towards you, so I didn't answer it. My dad had O negative blood. My mom has A positive blood. I'm the youngest of 5 children, and the only one born with negative blood was my brother David. He had A negative blood. I'm an A positive, but my daughter has O positive blood. We all have very pronounced M's on our palms of our hands. Dad could see and talk to those that tried to be invisible, and also the friends that passed away, I remember. My question to Sir Edward is, how was it possible for myself to be transported in an instant, to watch my dad arrive in heaven and watch him as he ran after my late ex-husband, John Boy? He called him by name. Afterwards, I right back in the private room in the ER waiting on the funeral home to take his body out in honors with a flag draped over him. I have seen Sir Edward both in this form and the transformed body. I looked right at you and was not afraid. I was in awe then and still am. My heart rejoices to hear the truth, and yes, I totally am a believer of the truth spoken. Thank you for always telling us the truth of Beale. Much love and blessings, Patty. So I guess she's wondering, and we kind of already covered the fact that mostly the blood typing, well, I'll let you go ahead and talk about it and then I will.
Yeah, we're gonna. I'm gonna show some stuff that I showed people last night. We got something that really going to blow their mind concerning this country, the sacred M. Um, your genetics, like your blood, through intermarriage. When I say intermarriage, you might have met somebody from, or your grandparents, your mother, or whoever. Might have met somebody outside of the bloodline, and the O negative blood is a very precious and very unique bloodline, as everybody knows. But somewhere down the line, the blood can be tampered with, creating other blood strains. But if you still carry the M, and I think that's what Patty said, uh, that lineage never disappears. You may have passed that M on to somebody else and don't even know it. Somebody within your lineage probably passed it on to you when you was born. Because you got the M, that's special. Because you don't have the blood per se, doesn't make you a lesser person. It means that somewhere along the line, your genetics got crossed. But them genetics will be reorganized and reheightened back to its purity once they are back on the ship. I told people before it'll take 2 to 3 hours for it to take place, but the old say it is, there's power in the blood. Trust me, there is. I'm not sure what she was talking about, that she transformed or uh, saw something. I don't remember what that was, Dee.
Yeah, I think it was
But
some sort of vision with her concerning her dad and her deceased ex-husband. It's common to have visions like that, especially with those that you're close with. And if you're even minutely awake and aware of your abilities, that happens. Like, if someone in my family is going to pass, I know it before it happens.
Yep.
So I hope we answered that for you. Yeah. All right. Let me see who else we haven't answered yet. I may skip over some, and it's not on purpose. It's not intentional. Oh, I know there was another one. Who are the lime green grays? They're about 5 foot tall, the black almond eyes, 3 fingers.
Who are the lime green grays?
Yeah.
um, They got kicked off of Nickelodeon, but they were slime before they were kicked off. I don't know. I've never heard that one before. That is a first.
Yeah,
Who asked that?
I haven't seen them either, so I have zero experience with those. Couldn't tell
I've
you.
never heard that.
Yeah, I couldn't tell them
I
either.
don't know.
Okay.
I'm not being a smart butt to her question, but I had somebody ask me one time, this was a few years ago, are grays spotted like leopards? And I says, why would you ask that? And the gentleman said, well, I had a dream that I saw these pink little aliens come through the wall, and they were pink, Pepto Bismol pink, and had little black spots on them like a leopard. My reply, I was kind of giggling a little bit. I said, my reply is, um, you need to lay off whatever you're drinking. I don't know. I mean, I've never heard some of this stuff. And lime green, I'm not blowing her off, but no, I don't know. I can't tell you. I've never heard of that. I've never seen that. But if anybody has, hey, please let D know. I'm interested too.
Yeah. Same with the pink ones, right? I've seen the tall whites with their arms stuck through my bedroom wall, several of them.
Could be a bad choice of clothing they chose, huh?
Yeah,
I
sometimes
don't
light
know.
frequency could play a factor in what they're seeing, so I don't know.
Yep.
But I haven't had experience with green or pink. Um, I know there was one other, and it's down here a ways, I have a feeling, that wasn't answered. Um, and it was just, since it's going to take me forever to scroll back to find it probably. The question was something about Sir Edward not appearing on Miss Carrie's channel.
Yeah, who said that? Who asked that question?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to scroll back a ways to find it.
I think that was Leslie. I answered that for Leslie last night. Eventually, you just do not want to associate with somebody or be involved with somebody that, well, places a murderer and a pedophile on a pedestal as if the great I am. And there's just too many things was going on. And Carrie got mad when I said I have nothing else to tell you. You have it all under control. So, with that said, I've never been back. Don't plan on going back.
Let's see. Me personally, I have a problem with someone that's not totally about the truth. When it's more about them than the truth, that's where I have a problem. A big problem.
So,
Okay, I
what
can't
is
find
that
who asked
referring to?
that. I've gone way back and I'm not seeing it. It's there. I'm sure it's there. It might be in my email as one of the ones that. Let me look. I'll check my email real quick and see if it was one of those. Nope. Ay, ay, ay. Oh, there's so many. We're not going to go that route either. It's not going to work. The only other thing that got asked was one that I forwarded to Sir Edward that came to my critical break email address. And it was about the last stream, just asking about the essence of life. That Sir Edward showed. And I think that pretty well covers it, all the questions. Okay. So, and did you answer that on the stream or on your Skype thing yesterday, I'm guessing?
What's that now?
The thing about the essence of life, the thing that you were showing last.
Mm-hmm. No, it is not a bubble wand. It is an instrument or container, a storage container that the liquid light is stored in. It is a glass. It's made out of a crystal glass. It's very flexible. No, you won't find it on this world. The tube is almost indestructible. It won't burn. You can't make the liquid light boil. They've put it at temperatures of 2,000 degrees, and it just creates a vapor. And once the vapor or the liquid cools down, it goes back to its liquid form. You can't destroy it, just like DNA. It is the pure essence of DNA, the pure essence of life. And with that said,
Okay. Did you have a smaller one you were wanting to show them of that? I remember you mentioned something about
oh
a smaller one.
yeah, I do. I have a smaller container. It's just a little small vial with it in it. It's probably got, I don't know, 250 cc's of it in there.
Ah,
I
okay.
keep it locked away.
All right. So, I think that's it for the questions. So, if I missed any, I will try to pick them up in a different stream. But, so we were starting to discuss again about the M's, and you had found a lot of information in a couple of different books that you were showing me earlier this morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to let
Like
you
I said,
share all that with them so that they know about it too.
this is a book that was, well, a gentleman years ago researched it, and he was blown away. So he took a lot of old scrolls or old writings. It was in Aramaic, and rewrote them into an English version. And the book came out about 1903, 1904, and it was immediately banned in this country like overnight. And it was the religious right, the various church denominations that screamed the loudest, "Oh, this is a lie! This is untrue." Yet, one of the things that was said, and I will say this very openly, the first elected U.S. president and another U.S. president, they were the writers of the Constitution, George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, said that one day, hopefully, that this truth shall be the Bible of the American people. There it is right there. You can see it. Can you see it, Dean?
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that said, this book pertained to the M. It pertained to the royal lineage. It pertained to the great people of America. And it mainly pertained to the royal bloodline that came through the United Kingdom, through Europe, places in southern France, Armenia, and was all connected with the Abrahamic tribes. And this could also be traced right back to the firstborn, Cain. Now, with that said, this book is really focused on the ones who had the end, the sacred mark. And that sacred mark, as I told last night, actually is you are from the lineage of the Merovingian kings, which are the descendants of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. But I want to show you the title of the book. And when you see the title of the book, pay close attention at the below of it of who the author is. Um, Here it is.
It says Joseph of Armethea.
Exactly. Joseph of Arimathea, Jesus' father. Once the Holy Family was secured and safe in southern France, he went to the United Kingdom. Back in them days, it was known as the land of the Emerald Isles. I think sometime that is mentioned often by those who know what the United Kingdom actually was. And Joseph Arimathea was the designer and one of the builders, along with many others, of the sacred temple of Rosalind. Notice I said temple. You can call it chapel. I mean, that's what they call it today, but in the olden days, it was a temple. Now, with that said, I've been assured, I've never seen, I've been to Rosalind one time, but I've been assured that the remains of Joseph Arimathea are buried underneath Rosalind in a very secure and private tomb, and only a handful of selected people, which is rare, can go view it. Now, I was also learned a few years ago that Pontius Pilate and his family are also buried there. It is rumored, and it came from very, very credible sources. I still can't find much evidence that talks about it, but Pontius Pilate, I know everybody knows who he is, uh, he left Rome with him and his family and some followers, and he traveled through Gaul, which is modern day France, and ended up in the Emerald Islands. He went there searching for Joseph Arimathea, and he found him. And Joseph Arimathea welcomed him with open and loving arms, and Pilate's followers, and they helped finish the great temple of Rosalind. Now, with that said, he passed away there, and he is also interned there. Um, I suspect that there's a lot of truth to that, D. For the simple reason is it was about 3, maybe 4 years after the crucifixion that Pilate went back to Rome and resigned his governorship to Caesar. And that's where the history of Pontius Pilate ends. You never hear nothing else about him. And then several years later, he resurfaces in the United Kingdom. And it's amazing. And if you look at the biblical record and some of the older scrolls and texts that are talked about, he never wanted to crucify Jesus. It was the Sanhedrins, the Jewish people, that called for the blood, the crucifixion, kill him, execute him. And the only reason Pilate did it was to calm the masses because, well, the Sanhedrin were pretty powerful, but they were under Rome's rule. And eventually, the city of Jerusalem would be sacked by the Romans. I think that was 70 AD. That's where James, Jesus' brother, was executed. But this book of the Holy Grail, and as I've told people before, it pertains to the lineage, the royal lineage that would come. And there's many books in here. It's also got some of the rights and translations of what is known as the Moravian Bible. It has the sacred Grail equations, in other words, certain numbers that we have found out over the last 10 years. Some of these equations and names are also associated in numerical coding that fits perfectly with DNA. There's some right there, as you can see. And I'm not going to go into it. There's much in here, but it gives a lot of the testaments. But here's where it all is situated. I want people to look at this chapter. Look at the name. Can you see that, D?
Mm-hmm.
Princesses and dukes were, especially princesses, were looked upon as the most sacred keepers of life. Well, we go back to the beginning of life, before the birth of Cain. Genesis, or the Ev, which means the queen or the birth mother, and her name was Isis. And you put these names together. You got to learn these names. What did they mean back in them days? And when you find the names, I mean, it's just like, oh God, it slaps you in the face. Here's Jin, which means mother, and here's Ev, that means queen or princesses. It just depends on how it goes. So, but we see Jin, who is the mother, and her name, the mother's name was Isis. So now you know where the very first books in the Bible, Genesis, comes from. And you know, it's just like I said the other day, and I wrote about it. God is a concept that man has created to control others. Yet DNA is the God. It is the life force that the human species is just starting to uncover for the last 60 years. He's still trying to figure it out. Again, DNA does not lie and it does not die. And these books right here, it's called the Book of the Holy Grail, and it was the keys to the quest. Well, what is that quest? Well, the quest is to find out, well, a very hidden mystery that churches today, especially Rome, has kept hidden from the public for hundreds and hundreds of years. That quest is the royalty, the sacredness of the people from the original creation. Yeah, as long as they keep control of it, well, you know, you'll still see the same bullcrap that we see today. But anybody wants to get this book, I highly recommend it. It's there's a title, The Blood of the Holy Grail by Joseph Martin. It's by J.L. Plowman. He was the researcher that did it. But George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, all our founding fathers knew about this before this ever became a country. And it's sad that all this was hidden away by, false teachings. False teachings, that's the only way you can describe it. But those got the M on their hands. Some of them's got one, some of them's got two. Some of them don't even have it. But how many people realize that that M has always been a hidden symbol to identify that your lineage comes from very sacred roots? I've got another book here that is just as informative. It's called The Lost Symbol. Now, you study this one, you'll understand this one. This thing talks about the people with the holy mark or the sacred mark, the secret symbol. And it's very enlightening. There's one chapter right there of it. See the M? May I read this to you?
Absolutely.
Not the whole thing, but you know, in the Bible, it talks about the three Magi that came to see Jesus after his birth. I've identified one of the Magi, one of the men that came from the east. His name was Gautama, commonly known today as Buddha. He stayed with Jesus during his early days and taught him many things. He was a Magi. But let me read you what the course of the Magi means. Originally, the word in Greek is Magiria. In Latin, it's Magia. In Hebrew and Aramaic, Magi. And it's the art of someone with special abilities or dreams and visions that is cast as a holy man. The Greek historian Herodotus ascribed to the Magoria or the Magi as the responsibility of one who would make sacrifices upon himself and ceremonies and divination to those who were sacred. Now, as borrowed term of the Greek and the Roman society is sometimes the same cachet of the word swami. I know that, Swami, you've seen that on some of them, Lawrence of Arabia. But in the 20th century America, it suggests that it means something even more stranger and mystical, possibly an impressive, possibly suspect of a sacredness with people who carry a mark. Doesn't say what that mark is. Well, you have to read a little bit further. But it also knew them as a divine man. And listen to this, men. The divine man served a charlatan, and that means a divine princess or a divine queen. It is the devotion to the queen or the princess who serves her father. Well, goes on here. The polemics over magic of ancient times made for the situation in the way of any of these labels might have been applied to one or the same person, but it's given magical understandings that might well be called the theos agar, which is Latin. It means the supporter or the teacher to the children. It also, in common era in days past, the Magnus or the Magi also served many connotations and used most of the same practices that are called today as magical exercises or entities. The ritual workings and special preparation substances meant to affect the universal methods that were taught long ago as the framework to describe the holy people who, with modern scientific thought, carry a very strange and unusual marking in blood. The concept of the magic or the Magi also brought this to a higher understanding and degree, with the prohibitions that magic was not evil, but it was a gift, with those who had dreams and visions of dominance of thought patterns. Okay, I'm going to stop right there because this is quite long. It's quite interesting, I'm sure. Thought patterns, domination of thought patterns. You know what? You do not have control over your dreams. Anybody out there that's got control over their dreams, please enlighten me. If you go to sleep and you have a dream, that dream is a process that has taken over your God gene. And in most cases, it is a warning, a blessing, or a desire for you to know something. It's like Patty. She had visions, she had dreams. It dominates the God gene. It is a message. It's a way that the gods or the angels or whoever comes and communicates with you. I told people last night, Dee, that many people don't even realize how special they are. How special. You know, the Bible says, ye are gods. Scripture cannot be broken. How many people out there know that they probably 95% are equivalent and connected to, well, ye are gods? And I had a lot of people last night. I mean, I enjoyed it, you know, almost over 8 hours of jaw jacking. But to share this with people is an enlightenment. It's not put a feather in my hat because I don't look for kudos or feathers. I just share the knowledge and show it to you firsthand. You do the rest. Embrace it or just kick it to the curb and continue on your merry way. But you have these abilities. And I told some last night, and I did it in a loving manner, you're lazy. You are really lazy. Just for the simple reason you all have these gifts, these beautiful gifts. You're able to telepathically communicate with somebody. You're able to astral travel. You're able to talk to the Father anytime you want to, but you can't because you are lazy. And why are you lazy? Well, it's easy to say that you've never been taught. You've never had the chance to experience it. And I also made a comment last night, which I found kind of humorous. Either use it or lose it. And I've encouraged people, use it. You may not get it the first time, or the second time it may take a while because you've never used it. And meditation is one of the greatest gifts that we can have. We all carry it. And those with the M, you had the mark. There's so much bull crap out there. You have to weed the garden, get the weeds out before you can see the flowers or the fruits of the trees. And once you see the fruits and you got all the weeds out there, get you some of that fruit and start eating it. Immerse yourself in it. I think that's probably why it meant that Eve ate the sacred fruit in the garden, or she ate the sacred apple in the garden. Another misconcept is the knowledge of who you was and what you was and where you came from. And again, if you don't have the M, or you're not the O negative RH bloodline, doesn't make you a lesser person. It just means somewhere down the line your ancestors' genetics got crossed somewhere. It is there. That fruit of knowledge is there for everybody. It's just been taken away from you. It's been hidden. It is a hidden thing. And I think the Bible tells us that. I mean, there's places in Matthew, Mark, John, the mysteries of the world has been given to you, but not to them. That's scriptural. Yet it also says in the Bible that in the end of days, the great mysteries, or no, not mysteries, but the great mysteries shall be revealed to all. Well, take it from there. Prove everything. And I live by that. Now, whether you believe it or not, or that's your choice. But don't throw away your inheritance, because you may not receive it if you throw it away. Somebody else will receive it.
Well, that's part of what my job is here, is because the virus has done an extremely fantastic job of covering up what the heart-based souls on this planet really are. They're angels. And part of my mission is helping them to realize what they actually are. The virus shamed many of you into believing that if you had gifts, that was evil somehow, or what have you. And that was just their method of making you squash your gifts, your abilities. The virus has also done a bang-up job of attacking your DNA. That's why the House of El and the House of An have a lot at stake here right now. Because what I've been teaching those that follow me is your genetics is under attack. Has been since you hit the planet. And that's part of my mission, is explaining all that to you all and helping you understand that the Anunnaki and the Pleiadians may not get along all the time, but we're indeed under attack, both of us. And that means we have a common problem. And yeah. You just have to look at my streams. I talk about this in detail, about our genetics, why it's under attack, what they're doing to it. And it's not your fault that you're not using your abilities or haven't been using your abilities. That's part of the virus's game plan. And that's part of my mission, is uncovering all that for you all. So that's why the House of El and the House of An are important right now, because we are both under attack genetically from about every source you can think of: water, food, chemicals, Wi-Fi, particularly any sort of thing that blocks signals You know, there's these frequent radio bursts coming out of Orion. There's a reason, and they're trying to block you all getting that communication. But guess what? I don't think they were successful because many of you started seeing the 1111. And in that very code, it tells you not to fear the 11s. And I've gotten tons of codes dealing with the number 11 and a whole lot of other things. But you all are actually, in my eyes, the heart-based souls on this planet. And it's one thing that I've always said. I don't care if you're male, female. I don't care what religion you were raised in. I don't care what your sexual preference is. I don't care if you're mixed or not. It's about the heart-based souls on this planet. You are angels. You just forgot. And it's my job to remind you. Sorry, I just had to get that out because
Very
it's
good.
important. Anyway,
So you mentioned the name or the numerical number 11.
yes.
If we go to the sacred contexts of the coding, the very number 11, 11, my sister's correct. It is nothing to be afraid of. Embrace it, because that's what I think we all are trying to do, get you to embrace it. The very number of 11, let me show you this, what it means.
Bingo, bango.
So, what my sister just said, it may seem complicated to some and to those who have never experienced it or never tested the waters of their abilities. Yes, it will be complicated, but we're trying to open your eyes and your mind to show the bloodline is sacred. It is very sacred. You are the grails. You are the dukes and the princesses that are mentioned. One of the things that was written in here that the founding fathers of America brought from Great Britain here and instilled into our Constitution, where it says, "We the people," one of the most greatest things that they knew is this right here on one of the chapters. I want people, I've showed this to some, but those who haven't, look at that.
Princesses, the most important aspect of the Holy Grail. The Knights Templar worship the goddess. Correct?
Exactly. Exactly. And the goddess again was the birth mother, uh, the Jinn, which means mother. Eve, Eve, not Eve. It was pronounced Iv, Evie. It's Sumerian for queen, princess, or if you want to be exact, the goddess. Her name was Isis. Why did the Egyptians talk about Isis so much? Yet, religion has made women second class citizens. Women are not allowed to stand in the pulpit. They can't be great leaders. They can't be teachers because religion has squashed it. But in the Merovingian kingship, they were looked as a riddle that would be hidden, yet waiting to be discovered. And these princesses, in their own right, was an enigma upon the theologians of the time. And the Grail princesses could not be made or promoted or, oh, hey, you got a pretty face. I'm going to make you a princess. No, these princesses, in their own right, were those who carried the sacredness of the blood and would pass it on. Have you ever looked at a colony of bees? Honeybees, good example. What do they protect? The queen. Look at certain species of ants. What do they protect? The queen, because the queen gives life. She lays eggs. She has all her workers in her army to protect her. Yet, in the olden days, it was the same thing. Because life was being created, the Anunnaki were the warriors. They were to protect not only the queen, but the new creation, the Adam. And yet, what has religion done? There's an old Pacturian word. It's called Yase, Yase, Y-S-E, Yase, and that is pretty close to the word of Samaria. It means Yazo, which means bright or knowledge. It also stands for female, a mother that gives life. So the sacredness of the goddess traits, the sacredness of the holy bloodline, ran from her womb. Now, if there's any men out there that think they can give birth to a child, boy, I want to hear from you. I'll buy your stock because I want to see it.
And there's
The
many that
mothers were
would like to
sacred.
rank the males above the females. I've
Yeah, well,
experienced that. Like someone, I've had a
royal.
comment from a couple of different people that claim that there are no female archangels. What do you say to that? And do you have proof?
Oh, do I have proof? Absolutely. Um, how many out there know who Azel is, Alali is? Um, there's several. They're archangels, and they're female archangels. I will make a note of that. I'm going to make a note of that. That's something I need to put in a post. I will name these female archangels. I got them here somewhere. Just have to locate them. Female archangels.
They have
There we
so
go.
many different names because of all the different civilizations naming them. Good luck with that, sir. But yeah, female archangels do indeed exist. So,
Exactly. They do.
the
They do.
gentleman that owns the YouTube channel Prophets Among Us, you're indeed wrong. He also thinks he's Moses incarnate. And if he is, he's got some explaining to do, as I have said
Yeah.
before. You know, they read the books, but they don't really read the books. And they don't truly seek, because if they did, they'd know that answer.
You see that?
As I said, I'm an inconvenient truth.
Uh, you're a thorn in some people's side.
So be it,
I
because
say good.
I'm here about the truth. That's what I'm doing here.
I want to read this one small paragraph here out of this book. Again, I encourage people to get this book. Two of my sisters found it on Amazon. Um, but I want to read this one particular chapter. It's on, strangely, page 111.
Can't make this up,
And
can you?
those, you can't make it up. I mean, I'll show you. It's right there. There's 111. See it?
Yeah, the numbers and the synchronicity that happens with me is freakish.
Yeah. But you people are going to be amazed by what I'm going to read you. I hope you're amazed. This is in the chapter here called The Bloodline. And those of us who had remained strong in their will that regard to the rightful heritage of their families. Heritage of your families, for they would know their souls as their own, and for the family would know each other as kinship. Kinship. As for the family, they would also know their souls as these kinships, as their own flesh and blood. For the family would be stronger and more steadfast than ever any human birth family could imagine. And know full well that in those times there was agents of the Luciferian rebellion led by Lilith, who would try and become a family with us, though they are our enemies. Now, I know somebody said, well, Eddie, didn't you say Lilith was the mother of Abel? Yeah, I did. Where's your proof? You're always saying prove everything. Where's your proof? Well, I can't prove it 100%. I apologize, but I'm very close to saying it's a fact
Well,
because, well, if we're to believe,
isn't Lilith the Black Madonna?
well, I couldn't say if she is or if she's not. I can say she's draconian. I can also say that she is the mother of Abel because studying this and this paragraph in there about the bloodline kind of gives you a big, big hint of what I'm saying is fact. Let me
And
read.
Lilith was Martha.
No, I've never heard of Lilith being called Martha.
That's what I've been
I've only heard
led to.
I've only
Just
heard
yesterday.
Lilith called Lilith.
No, Martha was an incarnation of Lilith.
I
Possibly.
just again, I mean, there's so much out there. It could be. I'm not going to say it's not. I'm just going to say that my heart's telling me that I've never heard that, or there's no evidence to that to verify it. But what I'm going to read you verifies what I said, that she is the mother of Abel.
Okay.
Doesn't mention Abel's name, but listen to the words. Knowing many of the families would be shunned over the course of centuries and not allowed to go within their own kind or their families, and thus we must hide ourselves from the carrying of the evil mother, Lilith. Now listen closely. And use of your instincts as well of those who would walk among us in harm's way, and know that by prophecies that many of the people who carried the mark and the bloodline could not walk away, for they had been captured and born of an unholy union, as they served Lilith, as her first child would be slain. Be slain. It doesn't say Abel, but there is a lot of records that say that Lilith was the mother of Abel. She was with the Adam for 125 years. That's in some ancient Greek teachings. It's also in some of the Gnostic teachings. They served Lilith, and they must be shunned, for she is the evilness of all that stands for good. For she will also use their weakness and poison their blood. And none who serve the ways of Lilith may ever be permitted to become of the holy generation, and could never be of the bloodline for days to come. I mean, this book right here is very, very accurate. Martha, huh?
Yeah, that's what I was reading during our last stream about Martha being Lilith. And it
Okay.
makes sense to me because of the situation I have. Like I said, it feels like history is repeating itself because I do indeed have a Martha in my family line. one that was really annoyed that I had the first child in the family. Really annoyed enough that she's unstable and it concerned me. I was actually worried that she was going to steal my daughter from the maternity ward at the hospital. It was that bad.
Can you see that?
Uh-huh.
This is one of my researches. It's in my research book here of the royal bloodline. Now, I want people to see this right here, the case of the genes of the atom. See that?
Mm-hmm.
This is quite unique. And I mean, there is evidence out there. You have to weed that garden. I'm not going to read this whole thing because some of it, well, it's got medical terminology in it, but I'll read this up. For it said and exerted into the Bible of Genesis 1:26 and 27, that the Elohim, those who came down, let us fashion the atom in our image and after our likeness. Well, look at Genesis 1:26. Let us make man in our image. Oh, Lord, I love this stuff. But it was stated that the Holy Feminine shall give her womb for the agmatic genes that the humans possess today and offer to decipher the human gnome, as announced that the first child shall be in the likeness of the father and the mother. And then it goes down through here, it talks about it. Oh, here we go. Little more than double of 13,801 genomes of fruit fly exists. Yet we can also see that 140 million genes and mitochondrial came from a source unknown, making it alien in nature. Now, with that said, my research is pretty absolute. I mean, I just don't go out and read something because, hey, the title sounds good. See that? The role of the Anunnaki. See that?
Mm-hmm.
I like your titlement, the House of Om and the House of El. Why is that so special, the House of On, House of El? How many have asked that question to you? Why is it so special?
Nobody.
Well, what was the role of the Anunnaki? Readers of the many books that are found today should be smiling by now to understand that they know that the biblical verses dealing with the fashioning of the atom were condensed, rendering a much, much more detailed Sumerian Akkadian text, which found inscribed in the clay tablets of the cuneiforms, in which the role of the Elohim in Genesis is performed by those who came down and was guarded by the elite of the House of El, commonly known today as the Anunnaki. They would become later on as those mentioning in Zechariah Sitchin's 12th planet, that even more so in the Genesis Revisited and the Cosmic Code. The Anunnaki came to Earth some 450,000 years ago. I said 412,000 years ago, give or take a few. So I'm in the ballpark. The age of the planet history also shows that they possibly came from a planet known as Nibiru, but also finding this only in some Sumerian cuneiforms, not all. Yet we know that the Sumerians also said that the creators came from the sacred seven sisters of the heavens. The seven sisters is also known as the Pleiades. No, not all the Pleiades created man. There was many races down here that created man, but they were from the house of An, the house of El, uh, many races. Now the house of An and the house of El, well, we know it as the house of the Great Council, the house of the Federation, the house of the great creators. Most people would call them the Magi or the gods. But listen to this. In a time some 300,000 years ago, it would be hidden in a mind to upgrade genetically the existing hominoids who are already on Earth and were evolving through evolution and genetics. That the Anunnaki, who had already traveled in space years ago, possessed the genomic sciences that also came down from the seven sisters to create a DNA rendering of themselves. But it was also noted that the star seeds, I mean, hey, I don't write this, star seeds would be known as the human species. It would also known that the DNA is rendering of an entwined serpent to represent the helix or the great holy sacred DNA coil of genetics. We see that today, the helix of the DNA. But when the readers see that the Anunnaki approved many of the projects that the Bible teaches today, let us fashion the atom. Enkai, with the help of Nershag, the chief medical officer of the Anunnaki, embarked on a process of genetic engineering to increase the sacredness of the creation of the atom. The firstborn is presumed to be Cain, but evil genetics was being conducted also, fashioning an unholy union of creatures. It says creatures, that is described in many academian texts. These unholy creatures would be banished from the sacred garden. The many cylinders dictated in Egyptian hieroglyphs, and it is suggested that it came in the possess of a unique extra gene that in later years could not be identified with any known blood type, and the image of the Anunnaki, not by bacteria, but by their fashioning and their genetic orders. What they're saying here is, I know I'm Pleiadian, okay? I'm proud of my species. I'm proud of who I am. I know my species played a huge, important part in the creation story, but it wasn't all Pleiadians. I'm trying to tell you, there was other races there. The Anunnaki was one race. The Andromeans was one race. The Orions, Centurions, I mean, many. But there was one race that was creating something vile and evil. And well, I can't prove it 100%, but Lilith was a draconian, a screech owl, a demonstress of the night, and was giving birth to unholy creatures. And most likely, my heart tells me that she was the mother of Abel. What did Cain do? He killed that creation because it was a threat to the royal bloodline. Yeah, it's a pretty complicated story if you let it, but a lot of the hidden mysteries are standing right there saying, here I am. Piece these numerical orders together and see that we still have evidence of Abel's genetics today. And it's nothing racist. It's nothing that we should be embracing, because the genetics from the evilness, as I said, we see today is in many races today. It's pretty right we have so many beheadings, murders, all in the name of the religions. But I want to read
Bohemian
you this.
Grove. Bohemian Grove
Uh-huh.
is where our government
Yeah.
people have their little parties with the giant owl.
Mm-hmm. They're
Is
worshiping
anybody
Lilith.
catching my drift? Now you know what they're worshiping. The unholy trinity. Get it?
The
Got it?
unholy
Good.
trinity.
If you don't, look it up. Bohemian
Yeah.
Grove. And by the way, when those leaders sign those soul contracts to make themselves famous and a lot of money, when they go to Bohemian Grove, they get an attachment. So their free will is gone because they're actually being operated by something much different than their own soul. Just FYI. Trust me, I've
Like
done
I
my
said
homework
the other
about our
day,
government.
I've got 7 research manuals on the subject. No, I'm not a doctor, but I am a curious soul, and I have studied this intensely. And it's not just my beliefs, it's pretty well documented. I mean, in fact, it is just brutally documented. And it describes and it warns and tells of the unholy unions. That's why the Bible said, do not intermingle. Those who intermingle, you are doomed. I didn't write this. I didn't create this. Man created this. But when you can see the evidence, I mean, the hardcore evidence that stares everybody in the face. Yet
See, I
man
don't
just
have a problem
continues.
with the intermingling at all. Zero problem with that.
Well, the intermingling can be lethal. It can be fatal.
Well, some of the intermingling was done with some ET races that are not benevolent, but that doesn't mean that the soul inside is compromised. If they love animals and they see the innocent soul sparks that are inside the animals, then they're definitely heart-based. And I'm completely 100%. My concern is with the heart-based souls. That's why
So
I'm,
why did our
yeah.
so why did our creators instruct us not to intermingle?
Yeah, but I don't know that necessarily that has to do with ethnic race so much as it does with ET race.
I'm looking for it. I will find it.
Did you just have an orb fly by on your screen?
Yeah, I have my little twippy twerpies that help me find things.
Much like I do, right?
Let's see. Calm down. I'm looking.
Don't worry.
I found it. Notice that highlighted right there?
Yeah.
Well, the guy that wrote that
Mm-hmm.
also talked about this. Most of the stuff that I have here, I've wrote down verbatim. It came out of medical journals. Medical journals. And this one came out of a medical journal. It was called Scientific America, November 1991. It was written by Dr. Luigi Cavalelli from Stanford University. He was a professor of genes, peoples, and ancient languages. Let me read you what it said here. Understanding many of the ancient languages, the reptilians seem to be tracking down in olden days the Rh negative O blood factors, going back into many millennia, that the Rh negative hybrids came from a superior race beyond the stars. Yet, and it's capitalized, it also showed that a group known as the Dracos in the Carpathian Mountains were mostly green eyes, it says, and initiated themselves upon men to initiate many unholy unions. They wanted to mate with all the daughters of man. It also showed that the daughters of man, from historical and prehistoric and pathology finds, that the Rh negatives was found in most of these finds, these bones. And it is also known as shown in many petroglyphs and hieroglyphs, that these Draco beings had what is known as the clada tail of an extra vertebrae or a tailbone. It also shows that they did not carry any genetics similar to earlier finds in Mesopotamia, parts of Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, to include the regions of, well, Siberia. Yet they are part of a reptilian, part human, to show that the Rh negatives could not be found in them, but those who tried to intermingle with those with the Rh negative matters of the blood and trying to give birth, that the Rh negatives usually were not born at all. In other words, they had miscarriages. Because it is not a processing property of understanding scientifically, it was almost as if the OH negative was refusing and destroying the new genetics that had been introduced into the mother's womb. We also find out that the Earth's population was no more than probably 1 to 5% of the Rh negative properties of the population found mostly in southern France, England, and the United States. It is very commonly known that in the early 40s, 50s, and 60s, that before a person could marry, a blood test was mandatory to ensure that if the bloods matched up for childbirth. In some instances, it was noted that those who did not match up and yet tried to have children sometimes died at birth. They're talking about the birth mother now. More studies need to be conducted on this within the many Rh factor maps. This is something that I have uncovered and is speaking very openly about. Report in the Scientific American Journal, November 1991, written by Dr. Luigi Cavalelli, PhD, Genes, People, and Ancient Languages, Stanford University. Do not intermingle. Those who did not have the genetics, I'll be called racist, but I don't care. I've been called a lot of things. These genetics, understanding the genetics, these PARP cells, the O negative with the Rh factors, again, was only found in Caucasian people. It was sacred, it was holy, it carried very unique properties where people could manifest and use their gifts, like telepathy, astral travel, able to see things before they happen. with much higher IQs and was able to live among their family, the kinship. Damn. We don't see much of that today, do we, sister?
Mm-mm. Let's see, where,
Yes.
oh, here we go with another code. I've been getting slammed with codes today.
Okay.
Slammed with codes. Because Gabriel has a lot to tell me. But, yeah, that happens. Some days I won't get anything, and then other days, avalanche. But, let's see, we're at 2:22, so almost an hour and a half. Let's talk about, we'll talk more about all this again, and about our M's and everything. Lots of interesting. Sir Edward's so full of information. It's amazing, and that's why he's here, is to help provide further information. Because my interest is in everybody having the truth, and his interest is too. So we have a great deal of alignment going on as far as our genetics being under attack, and also both of us wanting the truth out. So anyway, but what I'd like to, what's this? Yes, you got your list, your grocery list.
Well, no, this is my question list that I'm going to find. I have the data. I just have to look it up, but it's a little time consuming because
Yeah, and
I've
I'll
got
send
most
you
of
a
my
link to
data.
that page that I was talking about too. Okay.
All right, please do.
And but we were talking about visions. I had a vision back. Oh, I'd have to look at my code book, but one of them
I'll be right back.
involved. No problem. I'll just talk about the visions I had. Um, they involved my children both times. I just had another one, not last night, the night before. And what's fascinating is both times it involved my children, and it also involved a house of some sort being on the edge of a preface. I can't talk again. What the heck? Get the lips to move right. Preface, prefaces. There we go. I could spit it out eventually. In other words, on the edge of a cliffside of some sort. And both times a different type of house. I'm trying to sort out what that meant precisely, but one thing that was interesting in the one I had the night before was there was these beings that were short. And it's interesting because I came across the Middle Earth Vikings and their beliefs about the dwarves, basically. And these beings had entered this mobile home, not a mobile home, an RV, had entered this RV I was in. I can tell you the colors of the RV. We're talking vivid, vivid. And they had ransacked the RV looking for something of mine. They didn't get it because I had it with me. But I sliced one of them, the biggest one, 3 times with a knife. And I mean sliced them open. And they did not bleed. Their muscle tissue was not red like ours. It was gray. And they did not bleed. And I had cut this one in particular 3 times. And he turned around, and because the last time I cut him is he was heading out the door trying to escape. And he turned around and said, 3 strikes, you're out. And then he said, oops, I mean 4. Because then he realized I had cut him 3 times, not just 2. And that's when I took out after him, and that's the last thing I remember. Because I was like, I'm going to give you more than 3. So anyway, that was an interesting vision. Then Sir Edward talked about a visions that somebody in his chat yesterday had that lines up with a vision I had last year in 2018. You want to talk about
Yeah,
that a little bit?
Jason.
Yeah. Sir
His name
Jason.
is Jason.
Yeah. What did he say to you specifically? Do you remember?
Well, he had had 2 dreams, and he saw this leaping fire that was coming toward him, and he started to run, but he didn't run the opposite way. He ran into the fire. The flames tried to lick him. They tried to attach themselves, but they couldn't. And when he exited on the other side of the fire, he ran into a blue fog. Now, in that blue fog, he saw 3 beings. He couldn't make out their faces. They were like beings of light, silhouettes, but he saw them. And within that, they were speaking to him, but he could not hear a sound coming from their lips. And that was the first. And then, of course, he said the dream was over with. The second dream was, and he didn't say if it was the next night or a few days later. Anyway, it was the second dream. He saw the fire again, but this time when he saw it, he was in the middle of it. The fire tried to attach itself to him and couldn't. So he ran again, and when he exited the fire, he saw the blue fog again, and that was all he told me. Want to know what it meant? I told him, I said, most dreams or visions will come in 3s. There's a message in there. I'm not sure what it means.
Yeah.
I'm sure D does.
Yeah. Well, I'm not entirely sure. I had a vision back in 2018. You'd have to look back through my videos. And I'm sure the people that follow me will remember this, but I was on a street corner in a city. It was an inner city. The buildings were tall. It was nighttime. The street lights were on. There were deceased people all over the ground, and there was a blue fog. And the reason I knew it was blue was the street lights lit it up. It was blue. Um, there wasn't a soul anywhere near me that was alive. Not one. Not one. And I remember going into a building that was on a corner. It had a lot of glass where the doors were, and going in to see if I could find anybody alive. So those visions, when somebody else has one that's in common with something that I've had, those are puzzle pieces, part of the puzzle. So if you have anything like that, I suggest you write it down and make note of a date and things like that, because this, what we're working out here is a grand puzzle. And when somebody else has a common um, experience, it needs to be noted. Because, like I said, the synchronicity is breadcrumbs to follow, part of that big puzzle. So, Sir Jason, definitely don't forget what you saw, write it down, make details, or voice record it on your phone, something. Because the blue fog is significant, because I've had that one too. Um, let's see, we're at 2:30. Let's do questions and then wrap it up. How's that sound?
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah. We're getting to the end of the week, and I can't wait for tomorrow. TGIF.
Amen.
If anybody's got questions, you can put them in the chat now. That'd be awesome. And there goes the phone on cue, of course, right? Okay, let's let the phone stop a moment. No, that's just a reminder of an appointment. It'll stop in a sec. I need to change the number of rings that does. Okay, here we go. Sorry, guys. Question. I got a great deal of respect for you and your knowledge, Sir Edward, but why should we trust you and the Pleiadians to come and save us? How do we know you are not gonna screw us over?
What is your heart telling you? Is your heart screaming? You don't know. But I've been showing everything, and I think I've been proving it beyond a shadow of a doubt. Uh, we're here to warn. We're here to elevate. We're also here to evacuate. Uh, you tell me, whoever said the question, you tell me who's out there doing the same thing and showing the evidence. Oh, it's easy to say, you need to go to the Minerva ships, or, oh, God, follow our path. You have to be of the 6th and 7th and 8th density before you can ever be saved. Oh, my God. You can't make this stuff up. I'm showing the evidence. I've been warning you about the earthquakes that are coming, the earthquakes that's already happened. I've been warning you about the many volcanoes that are coming active. I've also warned you and showed you the evidence of what's taking place at where the dragon is resting. The dragon is awake. Yet there will always be that 1% that will, well, define that, well, how do we trust you? You know, I say this in a loving manner. When it happens and you have refused, you might not be so lucky to escape it. That's all I'm going to say on
it. And unless they've already met some of their, well, there's a lot of them that have already been seeking and things like that. So the heart-based souls would have their place with the House of El, definitely. But let's see what else. Let's see if there's any other questions. Someone asked, what's the unholy trinity? I think we discussed that last time and this time. That's Lilith and her gang.
Yeah. The unholy trinity. It was Lilith. Of course, the way the best documentation I have found, I've got it here. I was looking for it and I just haven't found it yet. Was Lilith, the Luciferian rebellion that the book of the Holy Grail talks about, and Cain. Cain is in there. Why did they put Cain, since he was the sacred firstborn? Well, his bloodline was trying to be tainted and stolen. And, well, it didn't work out too well.
I'm scrolling back to grab questions that were from prior, but I'm not going to do that all the time. So if you guys wait till the end of the stream to do questions, that would be awesome. Will you please ask Sir Eddie to please tell us about Inky and what his true physical form of Anunnaki? What is the true physical form of the Anunnaki?
Very good question. I don't know who said that, but bingo. I was just thinking about that just a while ago. The Anunnaki are the biblical Nephilim. They were the biblical warriors, men of renowned status. Now, when you talk about men of renowned status, well, let's talk about Zeus, Mercury, Apollos. Um, there's many. And also, there's a woman in there, Athena. How many know about that, Athena? She's a mythical Greek goddess. Well, she was also a birth mother, just like Isis was. Now, the Anunnaki are giants. Their skin texture was anywhere from a bronze color to a dark, when I say dark, a dark tan color. The holy people of Pakshur, India, are the original descendants, the surviving descendants of the Anunnaki. I have a brother that lives over there named Rudis, and he asks us a lot of questions. Well, Rudis, you are part of the Anunnaki family, but you're part of a holy, sacred family. Now, with that said, there was many races here in the beginning. The Anunnaki were assigned to not only create, but protect the new creation. Uh, no, the Nephilim did not go out and rape the daughters of uh, men. That is another fanatical untruth within the biblical record. They loved people. They were violent, and they could be very nasty individuals, but they were forced to be nasty individuals. They were fighting a war just like we're fighting a war to preserve and protect.
Okay. Let's see if there's any other question. Um, just to let the chat know, people have their own opinions and they have the right to those. So those in the chat, like Sir Edward and myself say, please respect each other. Telling people to leave the chat room is not my idea of a good thing to do. People need this information. So whether they believe me or whether they believe Sir Edward is beside the point. So be respectful, please. Okay, let's see if there's any other questions. Something about once the earth has been cleansed and we come back, how can we stop the same thing happening? Again, Draco's taking over.
There won't be no Dracos.
Yeah.
There will not be Dracos.
I know that the House of El has things in place that will stop that from ever happening again.
Absolutely.
Eddie, do you have any updates on Yellowstone today? And are they really going to try and cool it with water?
You know, most of the people that know me know that I'm notorious of answering questions with the questions. So, who asked that question?
Let me look see. Miss Debbie.
All right, Debbie, listen to this. This is an experiment that I gave to some geologists here about 3 years ago. Get you a frying pan and put about that much cooking oil in it. And turn your stovetop on as high as it'll get. And when it reaches its maximum potential, which will probably be what, 2,000 degrees at max. Some of these new stoves can go to 2,000, I think. I may be wrong. But you'll reach its maximum degree because you'll see these little bubbles start forming. No, it won't be popping. And get you about an eighth of a cup of water, just regular tap water. And as you're there watching the bubbles come up, take that water and dump it right in the middle of that hot cooking grease. It's guaranteed you're going to get burned. The same principle. Who in the hell, with scientific understanding, would ever attempt to pump water into Yellowstone to cool it down? The temperature is over 7 degrees.
All you have to do is look at the
Same.
lava coming out of the volcanoes, hitting the water in Hawaii, and the gas that produces. That would really set something off. Trapped gases like that? Yeah. They're asking for trouble.
And do you realize the cost to pump water there? Where are they going to get the water? They're going to pump it a river. The river will run dry. No, plan on having it trucked. Trucked. from the Pacific. They're going to put salt water in there. That is equally as bad. No, that bird will never, ever fly. Yellowstone, right now, the last update I heard was like 5 days ago. Yellowstone has been very quiet, but now the magma is being monitored. It's rising. Now they're realizing somebody about 3 years ago said the magma chamber was much bigger than we first thought. Holy cow, the magma chamber is 3 times as greater than we first thought. And now that magma is rising, it is slowly rising. And when it's quiet, it's building up pressure. I still say, and I will stick to my guns, the dragon will stand up and belch its fire when Cascadia fractures. And I still say Cascadia will be forced to fracture from events that will take place in Alaska. I watch it. I just haven't talked about it. There's nothing to be talking about right now, but we are watching it very, very closely. It is a ticking time bomb. It's like I talked to my dear friend last night that lives in Oregon. In fact, I talked to a couple that lived in Oregon. They live right on the Cascade. The volcanoes out there are active. I mean, they're active. They're waiting for the big boom, boom, boom. We see volcanoes in the South Pacific active. Krakatoa is just one small example. The Ring of Fire is very volatile. Now, with that said and done, you won't be here to witness it. I hope you won't be here to witness it. I hope you've had enough trust in yourself to see that what we're saying is factual. I've always encouraged people, look it up yourself. Do your own research. See, we're pointing it to you. We're showing it to you. Whether you trust me, D, or whoever, what is your heart telling you? Yeah, it may sound a little strange. It might be there might be a big question mark left here or there, but them question marks are questions that is yet for you to find the answer. Because, well, didn't I say last night that man has become complacent? He's become lazy. Yeah. Don't be lazy, people. Be informative. The answers are right there for you.
Sir Edward's right. There is a degree of laziness that's involved there, but that's part of the system has taught them to be that way. And, you know, I tell all of you, never stop asking the question why. And don't just come and ask us. Go look for yourself. The information's out there if you just seek it. So, but I do super appreciate everybody in the chat room, no matter what their views, no matter what their questions. You are all pieces of the goddess. Brilliant soul sparks.
Oh,
Amazing ones. Angels.
may I say something?
Absolutely.
This is directed to just one person and one person only, and I will say it in a loving manner. You who have been watching me intently, I appreciate you watching me intently. You who've made absurd claims, I challenge you. Show your proof, show your evidence. Because what I say about the geology of it is a fact. Oh, I know it's posted here and there on news media outlets and YouTube and whatever. But where is your evidence? I have my evidence. My evidence is absolute. And when I say absolute, it's because I talk with the people that study this stuff every day. and they watch and they wait. And when they have a question, I'm a little proud and honored that they call me. It's not that I have all the answers. It's just that I have been there and done that. I have seen what is transpiring. I see what is unfolding. And that one person who watches me and makes absurdity claims, leave my sister out of this. It's you that you really want to slander. But you know what? Uh, I welcome your slander with love and concernment. Maybe it's because the reason you do these vulgar things that have been brought to my attention is that maybe you're scared that what me and my sister are saying here is absolutely correct. That's understandable. And one day, hopefully, you have my phone number. Give me a call. Let's talk about it. And with that said, thank you, D. But I will protect my honor. I will protect those who I've been blessed to sit down and talk with. I will also protect those who are searching and those who do ask those questions, whether it's to me or D or whoever. I'm going to do my very, very knowledgeable best to give you the absolute fact. And the truth sometimes a little hard to swallow, but I'm going to not sugarcoat nothing. Again, do your research, see what we're saying. And before I shut up, I will say this one last time again. Everybody wants the truth until somebody comes forward and speaks it. Well, with that said, I think we love you, and I think we will embrace you eventually. But slandering somebody gets nowhere. It only creates more confusion. Thank you.
Anyway, I hope you have a brilliant weekend, sir. And I
You
hope
too.
everybody that watches this does as well. I hope the entire planet blossoms with the information that we share here and that I share on my channel. Because your DNA is indeed under attack, and there's things that I've been looking into that helps with that, and much more. There's so much more, but my mission is multi-pronged. That's a thing. Anyway, um, we'll wrap up. If you have any questions, email them to criticalbreak@outlook.com. I do plan on changing the channel name and such, but it's important, but it's kind of back burner important to a lot of other research I'm doing right now. But I'll let everybody know when I'm getting ready to do that. But anyway, I will talk to you soon, Sir Edward, and I can't wait for another chat with you sometime soon. And we'll cover more stuff. People will have questions, I'm sure. And in the meantime, see everyone later. Talk to you later, sir. Okay?
Ciao. Sila.
Goodbye, y'all.
Shalom.